Hello, everyone. I'm Rosie. I go by Rosie in the Rockies here on YouTube, on Instagram, and also on Etsy. I'll list my socials as well as everyone and everything else that I mention in this video in the description box. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope that this video brings you some company or enjoyment or calm while you stitch. It's been 5 weeks since my last video, and this time I have a lot to show and talk about. I have an antique and reproduction sampler that's a finish and FFO and Etsy release in front of you, so I'll talk about that. I have a Mirabilia finish and progress on 4 whips. So I'm just going to get right into the stitching. Okay, so the first finish and FFO I have to show you is Hannah Jude's Night. She was 8 years old when she stitched this original antique to your right, and I've just finished the reproduction to your left. My best friend purchased the antique for me at auction after doing a little bit of research and realizing that we could find out exactly who Hannah was. And my best friend knew I would be drawn to it because of the blues and golds in the sampler, and I'll show you a close-up of the reproduction in a second. Hannah was 8 when she stitched this in 1826, so it has been 200 years this year. And her birthday was in August, so it's almost but not quite 200 years. In August it'll be 200. And she stitched this verse for her mother, so the sampler's titled My Mother. And you can see that Hannah ran out of room over here when she got to the end of each line of the verse. Her border is extremely symmetrical. The other bands in the sampler are very symmetrical. She did not have a math or counting problem. I think she might have had an alphabet problem, but she was 8. Who can blame her? So let me show you the reproduction up close. I'll talk about the verse, then the threads, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what we learned about Hannah and what's in her reproduction chart that you can purchase on Etsy. I'll also mention that Hannah and my other 2 reproductions are 10% off between now, today is April 19th, and Mother's Day, including Mother's Day, which is May 10th, 2026. So here is Hannah's reproduction. I apologize for the shadows. It is a cloudy day, so you can see her signature line at the bottom. Says Hannah Jude's Night, aged 8 years, 1826. And then starting with the border, she has this nearly perfectly symmetrical border. Almost everything is the exact same all the way around, except as you get toward the corners. She has a small band of trees and plants and golds and creams and greens. And then in the center, it says, My Mother, and the verse says, When first my eyes beheld the light, who said those little eyes were bright, and that I was her soul's delight, my mother. Then there's another band of trees and maybe a little byre or this green step up with the red pots and the birds and heart, and then a band of trees, and then her signature line. And the border at the bottom has this little set of blue pots around the blue flower. So I just think she's beautiful. I found this frame actually off of small business on Amazon, and then I went to Michael's to get foam core, and I do have glass for it. And I have a similar frame for the antique. But as I'll show you, the antique has quite a bit of wear. This is how it came, and the linen is very fine. So I'm actually taking it to the Denver Art Museum, to the Avenir Textile Museum. They're going to help me conserve this. And I am paying for the conservation. It is not cheap, but they will be hanging near each other behind UV protected glass. And I just thought this was such a sweet verse, particularly for Mother's Day. You know, I once heard, I can't remember who, but somebody on Flosstube had said, you know, I'm so many years old, I don't need to write verses to my parents. And I'm turning 40 on May 1st, and I have a very close relationship with my mother. And I am a mother, and I think about people who play a maternal role, whether that be in their personal lives or their work, or people who have, whether it's a biological relative or a friend, somebody who kind of cares for them and supports them and loves them unconditionally. And that's what this sampler makes me think of. So I think it would be a great piece for Mother's Day, for somebody in a maternal role's birthday, or as a birth sampler. In terms of the threads, I do have 103 silks, and I'll tell you a little bit about why I stitched the model in silks in a second. There are 8 of them, and I almost ran out of the gold color that's in her signature line, but that is because I had made a pretty substantial mistake and had to rip a bunch out. So I think others, if you're frugal with your thread, probably wouldn't run out on 40 or 46 count. I also have a Classic Colorworks and Gentle Art conversion, and this was what I started with. But then I learned, and I thought I was going to stitch her in the hand-dyed cottons, but then as we were researching Hannah, I learned that her father was a skein silk dyer. And so I thought, oh, that's it. I have to stitch her in silks. I stitched the model on 46 count Moonstone by Fiber on a Whim, and I thought that the color really matched the back of the chart. The front has faded significantly. The back has also faded. You know, it's not been well protected, but you might be able to see that the pinks and blues are a little bit brighter. I don't know if that's a good view. And then with the chart, so you get a cover page, you get information on Hannah, which I will read to you in a second. You get notes on the antique and my approach to her reproduction. I did everything as best I could to honor the reproduction, with the exception of centering the verse. And I did that because I was really connected with Hannah when I was stitching, and I thought I was going to do it exactly as she did it, or almost exactly as she did it, just barely making the letters fit rather than smushing them on the next line. But when I started to stitch her, I felt like she was talking to me and telling me to recenter it. You know, everything else in the sampler is so symmetrical and so centered. I started to wonder if this 8-year-old girl maybe had made a mistake as she was learning her letters. And this might sound crazy to some of you, but I felt like she was talking to me and telling me to center the verse. So that is what I ended up doing. You then get a 6-page chart. And for those who have not bought my reproductions before, here's a little corner of it. don't know if you'll be able to see. So you can see that the chart itself is large enough. There's 3 lines of overlap between pages. Each page is numbered. There are marks to mark the center. And then you get the information about the chart, including the Soie 103s, the hand-dyed cottons, and the DMC conversion. So let me read to you what I wrote about Hannah. Spitalfields is one of the oldest inhabited parts of London, England. In the 1800s, it was well known for its industry, as well as its poverty and crime. Silk weaving was established in that part of London in the 15th and 16th centuries, becoming very well known by the 1680s when French Protestant refugees known as, I think it's pronounced Huguenots, fled persecution by Louis XIV and immigrated to London. It was in Spitalfields in 1817 that Hannah Judes Knight was born to parents John Christopher Knight, a skein silk dyer, and Hannah Ayscough Knight, a weaver. Hannah's parents married on August 18, 1807 in London. Hannah was born, then baptized at Christ Church on August 31st, 1817. As the last name Knight is common, it was difficult to determine how many siblings she had. What is certain, based on later census records, is that she had at least 2 sisters. Keisha, spelling is unclear from the records, I think it's Kezia, and Elizabeth or Eliza. Hannah married James Holt Meares, a butcher, on July 25, 1842 at St. Anne's Church in Limehouse. Both Hannah's parents and James' mother, Anne Meares, were in attendance. James' father was deceased. Hannah and James had 3 sons. James, baptized June 18, 1843. Edwin, baptized December 22, 1844. And Frederick, baptized in July 1847. James Holt Meares died in July 1849, leaving Hannah, then aged 31, widowed with 3 young sons. In late fall 1851, Hannah married Thomas Miller. Thomas and his 7-year-old son Charles moved in with Hannah and her 3 sons at number 13 James Street in Limehouse. Apprenticeship and freedom admission papers were signed by Hannah and Thomas for her youngest son, Frederick. At 14, he entered apprenticeship for 7 years under Frank Townsend, a manufacturer, which ended full term on April 7, 1869. Frederick married Annie Meares, a woman 8 years his senior, sometime between 1869 and 1881. Frederick's record provides a sad ending. Annie died in September 1882. On January 13, 1887, at 40 years old, Frederick was admitted to St. Mary Islington Workhouse Infirmary for a cut on his throat and died 3 days later in Ishmael's, the men's ward. The workhouse housed lunatics, I put that in quotes, the infirm, and prison inmates. It is unclear whether or which of these labels Frederick may have been ascribed. Hannah Judes Knight died on August 17, 1880 at 63 years old and was buried on August 21, 1880 in the City of London and Tower Hamlets Cemetery, commonly known as Bow Cemetery, the same cemetery where her first husband James was buried. Her estate was worth £442, and her son James, who then lived in Essex, was the sole executor. Hannah was survived by her sons. James and Edwin both married and had children. I was drawn into Hannah's history. Learning about her provided much for me to think about while reproducing and stitching her sampler. I often felt that she was guiding my hand. approving of or gently suggesting an alternate thread color, correcting my counting, and leading the decision to make one revision to center her sampler's verse. Even after completing the stitching and this chart for other stitchers, I feel close to Hannah and hope she approves of this reproduction. I also hope that her childhood as the daughter of a silk dyer and weaver provided opportunities to pursue needlework for pleasure, not just necessity, and that she stitched for peace and comfort as the joys and difficulties of her life unfolded. So I'm getting a little emotional, but I do feel a very strong connection to Hannah. I hope that some of you might like her as well. Again, she is on sale, 10% off, as are my other 2 reproduction charts on Etsy through Mother's Day, May 10th. So that is my journey with Hannah. When I posted her yesterday, I think, on Instagram, somebody reached out to me and asked, what's next? What am I reproducing next? I'm not sure yet. However, I may have accidentally opened a box I was not supposed to open for my birthday. And there may be another sampler or 2 that I've only had a very quick peek at before I realized what they were. So those might be up next. And while I wait to prepare for those, I'm going to keep thinking about Hannah, and I think she's going to be with me in my heart and my mind for a very long time. Okay, let's move on and talk about my next finish. Okay, my other finish is Mirabilia's Botanical Garden. She is stitched on a 32 count Capri by Seraphim Fabrics, one of my favorite dyers. And I had not seen many people stitch her on a blue or green or purple fabric. She's charted for on a pink, and I've seen her on pinks and creams, and I just really felt like she was a tropical gal. The one exception is that Stephanie, and I'm sorry, Stephanie, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Winjet, on Instagram. I will link her Instagram below, stitched her on a more blue purpley fabric, but I had not seen that when I decided on this Seraphim Capri. I think she's so beautiful. So I had started her on November 8th, 2024. And that was the day that we had a snowstorm in the mountains. We were supposed to close on our house that we bought at the end of 2024 that day, but because of the storm, we were sitting around at home and we couldn't go pick up the house keys. And the next Monday was Veterans Day, so we had to wait until the following Tuesday to pick up our keys. By then the snow had melted a little bit. And in the middle of packing up a house and selling some farming equipment, because we were living remote before we moved to Frisco, I decided it would be a great idea to celebrate closing on the house by starting a new project. And that is Botanical Garden. And I really loved stitching her. I'll show you a close-up in a minute, but I wanted to talk you through a couple of things about her in case you were thinking about stitching her. So first of all, she is one of the smallest Mirabilias or smaller Mirabilias, especially if you stitched her skin 2/2. She would not take long to finish at all. There is not much back stitching. The back stitching is just in her skin, so her hands, her neck, her face, and then these vines. And then there are some more vines in her flower crown, and that's it. And there also are not that many beads and not so much kreinik. So she would be a great Mira if you were thinking about starting a Mira and using kreinik and beading. I will also say you could probably kit her up from beads and kreinik you have in stash. So the only place, there's only one kreinik color. Focus. Not working. It wants to focus on her because she's so pretty. But the only place there's kreinik is these 5 sections of her crown. So I don't even know if you need to buy this kreinik. It's, nope, it's not going to work. Well, it's kreinik 198, and it's the number 4 width. So I don't think you need to buy this unless you're going to use it for other mirror pieces. I think you could take any light colored kreinik or maybe a darker kreinik that matches that you already have in stash and use it. Then she has all of these beads, and you can see you hardly use any of each color. And there are 6 different bead packs. So I think what I would recommend is to just kit up from stash, because you don't need to buy 6 bead packs and then have all of these beads left over unless you stitch a lot of mirrors and you like beads. I'm not saying that because I'm sorry that I bought them. I feel great about how I stitched her, but I am saying that because as I accumulate more and more beads, I think she's my 10th Nora design. I'm realizing I can kit up from stash, and it's okay if my beads aren't exactly what is called for in the design. So whatever that's worth to whomever it's worth. Let me get the beads out of the way and we will do a close-up of her. We'll start at the top. Here is her beautiful flower crown. I struggled quite a bit with the face. This always happens to me because I like to stitch the skin 1/1 half cross, going in the opposite direction of my full crosses. And then I always either misjudge how kind of the diagonals or angles should go in faces and in shoulders, fingers, that kind of thing. But I think she turned out beautifully. Look at her sparkle. And then let me just move this a little bit. Here is the flower bushel she's holding. Now, one thing I didn't realize just looking at the chart was that there is quite a bit of this gray color. I think these are her sleeves. I had thought she was nude underneath, and all of this was were flowers, but no, she's clothed. So that was a lot of block stitching. So let's focus again. I do highly recommend her. I think she looks beautiful, and I think she looks beautiful on this fabric, and the fabric is showing up really true to color right now. I have a white frame for her that looks like kind of the sister frame to Australian Dragon, which I stitched last year. So I'm hoping in my end of May update, I'll be able to show you her FFO'd alongside Australian Dragon, which was a free chart on the Mirror on the Wall Facebook group. I think it was from the 2018 Australia Mirabilia retreat. And I plan to put them one on top of one above the other on the same wall. So hopefully I'll have that to show you in my next update. But I'm really glad she's done. I think she's so beautiful. One more thing I wanted to say. I made a new friend. Her name is Maura, and she goes by the Champagne Stitcher on Instagram, and she has a Flosstube. She has, I think, 4 or 5 videos. And we started talking about fancy ladies, and then I was beading on this one while she was finishing a mermaid design. you all need to go look at Maura's Flosstube channel. She is a monogamous stitcher, but so prolific. It feels to me like she's stitching a piece every week or week and a half. And she has so much variety. She has fancy ladies. She has some of these more kind of band sampler designs by like the drawn thread. She has more whimsical designs that she stitches for friends. She just showed her binder system for how she stores her patterns, which is also how I store mine. We were talking about that. And she is just full of life and joy and positivity. She's so enthusiastic about her stitching. I'm so glad that we met, and I think all of you will love her as well. Even if the pieces she stitches are not your style, her enthusiasm and love of stitching just really, really shine through. I also very much appreciate somebody who stitches monogamously and makes so much progress. It is so inspiring, and she does have a lot to show in each of her videos, because each time she's filmed, she's either shown past finishes or she talks about various fabrics she has in her stash. So please go check out Maura. And I'm so glad that I have become stitchy friends with her, and I expect that many of you will want to be stitchy friends with her as well. Okay, so the other, she's a fairy, but fancy lady design I have is from the Nora Corbett line. This is Magnolia. I just love her. Nora has several designs that have this kind of flower umbrella. I had stitched Petal Fairy 2 years ago in 2024. I also have Bluebell sitting in stash. Oh, and if you want to see a beautiful Bluebell in progress, go check out Kathryn from the Needleberry Stitcher. I will link her below. This is Magnolia. This is what she looked like last time I showed an update of her. And this is what she looks like now. So sorry about the wrinkles. I had her in my work travel bag. I'm not sure if you can tell, but this fabric is white with a very light, pale green and pink modeling. This is a 28 count Petals by Picture This Plus. So what I've done since the last time you saw her was go in and stitch this entire side of her skirt. This 28 count, the stitches feel really big to me, and the stitching does not look great. My stitches do not lay flat. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I have several other pieces of 28 count hand-dyed fabric for Mirabilias, and I'm thinking I might have to pass them on because I just don't prefer stitching on 28 count. Or maybe I'll stitch 1/1 on them. I'm not sure. But I am liking the movement. I love how the petals kind of lift up. And I'm really liking the color. I know when I showed it last, I had said, oh, I don't think this blue kreinik and this carnival looking kreinik. Let me get them. I was saying that I'm not sure these two colors go together. They almost like clash to me. I don't know. Of course, I am not questioning Nora Corbett. She is a design and color genius. So I'm just trusting the process. I don't know if that happens to anyone else with your fancy ladies, but usually when I'm about a quarter to a third of the way through, I start second guessing the color combination or my fabric. And I always keep going, and I have never been let down. So my plan, the next time I pick this up, is to maybe finish her bottom half. I really just have one more big petal here, and then her legs, which I am going to attempt 1/1. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out in 28 count. And I believe all the rest of this are beads. So her legs will be bare. This space will be empty until I get to the beading, because I don't bead until the end. And then this summer I'll be able to work on her top half, which is the fun part, because I love stitching wings and I love stitching these flower umbrellas. And she does not have any facial features, which will make her quite easy to finish up when I get to the top of the design. So she's a great work travel project. I am enjoying her very much. And I look forward to getting back to her. Next is my oldest whip. This is Cittlewick Green by Karen Kluba of Rosewood Manor. And Tamra, who used to go by Lit Cat Stitches, now goes by Wayward Needle, has this as a whip. Tamra has also started designing, and she has some beautiful charts. I need to go. There's one in particular that's an Ursula K. Le Guin, I think that's how you say her name, the sci-fi writer, quote, and I'm going to pick that one up when I get a chance. Tamra has this as a whip, and then Sabrina, Lady Marmalade in Stitches, has this as a whip, and Aimee from Thread Gremlins finished it a while back. Here is what it looked like the last time I showed it, and here is what it looks like now. So I was able to stitch a big chunk of this bottom border. I think I was about here the last time I showed it. And then these are Smyrna crosses in the grass, which I think is so clever. And I stitched this entire plant, a couple of these doodads, and both of these birds. And my kids jokingly say that these two little birds are them, and these two big birds are my partner and I. But my partner's response is always, they rule the roost. They're the ones who boss us around. So I actually like to think of these birds as them, and maybe this one's my partner and I'll be on the other side. Anyway, this is how my family talks about my stitching. I am loving this piece. This was my 2025 New Year, New Start a year ago, January. So it's almost a year and a half old. And it is very slow going stitching for me. This is a 40 count Mocha by Weeks Dye Works. And don't know how to describe it. It reflects the light in such a way that it is very difficult to stitch on unless I have really good natural light and the light from my magnifier. I don't need to use the magnification part, but I need the bright focused light, the white light. And then the Weeks threads are pretty dry, or at least the ones that I have in stash. And I don't know if it's because they're older or what's going on, but they tend to knot up. They don't feel good pulling through the fabric. So it's a pretty effortful stitch, even though I'm enjoying it tremendously as well. So the end of the piece is over here. There's still quite a bit left to do. It doesn't, look like much. It looks like there's less than a quarter left, but there's some focus. There we go. Sorry about the shaking. There's some really dense stitching in this house. And then each of these floral motifs take deceptively long to stitch. I can't wait to get to this tree and this basket of what look like blueberries. So quite a bit still to go. The other reason I go slowly on this piece is I don't want to make a counting error, because how sad would it be if I was outside of kind of this natural frame that the alphabet and the border make. So I am trying my best, but it is really beautiful. It is a very fun stitch. It's just about getting the right lighting going, and going slowly and having patience. So this is my focus piece. It's my oldest whip until it's done. So that is where I'm at. I have several other Rosewood Manor charts that I really want to start as well, but I've got to finish this one first. Okay, let's move on to Capt Jack. This is a very sad computer printout of Marie Barber's Old World Floral, which my son has dubbed, and several other stitchers have adopted as Capt Jack. This is from the March-April 2012 Just Cross Stitch magazine. I have the DVDs. You can still find the DVDs in the magazine itself on the secondhand market. I actually saw the magazine maybe a couple of weeks ago on eBay. It seems like it shows up every month or two on eBay. And there is a big group of us stitching this. So Contented, I think I started it first, and then Contented Needleworker Kim started it and started an Instagram chat group. Some of the other members of the group are Astrid, or Palmetto Stitcher. Astrid has already finished hers, and it is gorgeous. Stitchy Emily, who has a Flosstube and Instagram, I'll link below. Brienne, Mimosa Monday Stitching. Zeb, who's Zebins on Instagram. Again, I'll link everyone below. Just started it for her birthday, which is tomorrow, Monday, and she's already made great progress. Happy birthday, Zeb. Steph, Lake Girl Stitches, just joined us, and of course, Steph has a Flosstube, and Debbie from Lake Debbie. So hopefully you're seeing what mine looked like the last time you saw it in my last video. And here it is now. And I'm so sorry for the wrinkles. I've been working on it all week. So what's new? I finished the entire urn, vase, whatever this is, these flowers, this rose, and the entirety of Jack's tail. And if this looks like a weird thing, it's because it's part of a flower. Is he not so handsome and so regal? And I'm not saying that to brag about my stitching necessarily, because I don't think my stitching's particularly perfect on this piece, but just how clever Marie Barber was with her color selection. There are, I think, like 10 or 12 different blues and teals to create this shading. Each flower has between 9 and 12 colors, even the small ones. So in some of the parts of the design, there are some like confetti stitches and you have to switch out. But with these larger flowers, you can just kind of start in the center and work your way outward and finish a thread. I did struggle with Jack's body. I made several mistakes. I think everything's going to turn out okay. But it's because the chart is from the Just Cross Stitch magazine, so the motifs are quite small. The members of our group who stitch using Pattern Keeper or iPad, like where they've converted it to go into an online tool, are saying that they're having a much easier time. I stare at a computer screen all day when I'm not traveling for work. And then when I am traveling for work, I'm teaching people how to use financial software. So I'm staring at a screen with other people. And I do not want to stare at a screen when I'm stitching. So I'm using the paper printout from the magazine CD, that Just Cross Stitch CD? No, DVD. DVD? Whatever, the thing you stick into the computer so that you can view files. I think it is a CD. This is stitched on a 36 count silver lining, again by Seraphim. This is my favorite whip right now. I just could not put it down, and you don't get bored by this piece. Everything's close enough together that if you start in the center with Jack's body, you can get to either flowers or the urn or his face very quickly. And then once you get to one flower, you can get to any number of flowers. So, you can stitch in order, or you can stitch by color, whatever you feel like. So I'm just really enjoying him. Now there is quite a bit left. There are more flowers on this side than on this side because of how his body's angled. So, this is going to still take a while, but the flowers on the left are different. Even the way the roses face are different than the flowers on the right. So that is going to be a lot of fun. And I am really, really enjoying this piece and also enjoying sharing it with friends on Instagram. Now, the only downside to this piece is that my 12-year-old, who was the one who gave the parrot the name Capt Jack, because he's in a pirate explorer kind of phase, he is, Kim would call it encouraging. I'm putting that in quotes. I feel he is bullying me just a little bit. So anytime that I'm working on another piece, he's asking me for Jack. He tried to get me to stop and frame this as is. He felt Jack didn't need any more flowers. In fact, when Debbie's update, I show him Instagram updates anytime anyone posts in the group because he whoops it up and gets excited. And I think it was Debbie had finished the parrot but had not started any of the flowers. And his response to it after whooping it up was, "You can tell her she can frame it like that, Mom. Like it can be done. It doesn't need the flowers." So there's been some of that. I have put it back on him and said to him, as soon as you find a frame, I will consider finishing it, like stopping wherever I am in the stitching process and framing it. He's looking for a very specific kind of frame. He's thinking an oval or round or maybe like a hexagon frame where the dark wood looks distressed. Like if you think about a banged up ship's wheel, that's what he's thinking about. He even found a seller on Etsy who makes ship wheels to hang on the wall, and I had contacted the seller to see if they could make a frame out of it, but the price was exorbitant. So Alex is very strongly persisting that I need to hurry up and finish this piece. But that's okay. It makes me happy that he's excited about it and he feels like he'll have a piece that's his piece on our family's eventual sampler wall. I'm also looking for a parrot or two to stitch just for him, and Kim found a couple on 1-2-3 Stitch. So I purchased one of them, and then I found a couple of others, and he's going to pick a different parrot for me to work on when Jack is done so that he can bully me about that project because that's now part of our family dynamic. Anyhow, if you're interested in joining us, it's not too late. A couple people just started their projects, and you can either message me or Kim and ask to join our Instagram chat. All right, one more whip to show you. Last but certainly not least is Smith Sampler from the Scarlett House. Sarah from Sarah Stitchy Spot just finished hers, and it is so beautiful. I kept pausing my TV so that I could see it in kind of different angles and the different parts of what she was showing. It's so beautiful. I'm working on mine with Jennifer from Screen Door Needleworks. Jennifer has a YouTube and an Instagram. I'll link her below. And we're doing, I wouldn't even call it a stitch along. Each of us just picks it up when we feel like it and share it on Instagram and tag the other. And she's stitching it in the silks, which I rarely regret things, but I almost regret not choosing the silks. I'm stitching it in the DMC. So here's a photo of it last time. And here it is now. So I pulled down this left border, and then I stitched the entirety of this white and red plant. I'll show you a close-up in a minute, but and you can see I started this little dog or squirrel or whatever's going on here. That's right here. I am just loving this piece. There is something about the geometric pattern that is so soothing to stitch on. And I feel like this is now, I've talked previously about having a therapy piece where if I'm stressed or I'm trying to work through something in my mind, this is the piece that I was working on. Now, next time I pick it up, I'm going to be working on this berry basket, and I'm a little intimidated by it because of the size. And I mean, this is full coverage and it is a large section of this band. Now, our surname is Smith, but my partner's family are superstitious about a lot of things. And one of the things they are superstitious about is putting your last name on like articles of clothing or on like a backpack, on the outside, or in places in the house. They have a thing about that. So I have promised my mother-in-law I'm not going to stitch Smith in the berry basket. Kathryn Adrian, Stitching in Costume, finished this one a while ago. And what she did was she took some of these triangles from the border and filled them in the berry basket. And then Sarah did the same thing. And it looks gorgeous. That is my backup plan. But I had thought I might put a word, something that was meaningful to our family, in the basket. I just haven't come up with a word that I feel strongly about, I suppose. So I thought about maybe the word peace or the word hope. And I feel okay about both of those, but I don't feel particularly strongly. A few nights ago, I started looking up synonyms for various words that mean things to our family. I couldn't find anything there. So I think what I'm going to do is stitch the basket, but leave the entirety of the bowl itself, including the bottom and top bands that kind of go around these triangles. I think I'm going to leave all of that blank, either until I come up with a word that is the right word, feels like it's the right word to stitch, or until I finish the piece, and then I'll make a decision. My backup plan is to do what Kathryn, Adrian, and Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot did, because theirs look really beautiful as well. So very much enjoying this piece. Let me show you a close-up. I am stitching this on Fox and Rabbit baked clay. So this is the first band, and hopefully you're getting the colors. I think these colors are really unique too. And then here is the stitching on the second band. I have switched out a couple of the colors. The gold that's in these branches is much more orange, and I wanted it to look more mustardy, more gold color. And then I switched out the cream or white color. I'm not sure if it was a mistake, but the original looked way too stark on this, on the baked clay linen. But now I'm wondering, should I have stuck with that? Anyway, I'm going to keep going. I really do like how it looks, and I'm only a little jealous of Jennifer for her silks. All right, I think that's it. My plans are, I don't really have plans. I turn 40 on May 1st, and I think I mentioned earlier in this filming that there may be a couple of antiques that I might be unwrapping for my birthday. So I got a peek at one of them, and it is beautiful. So if that happens, I might drop everything and chart that one so I can stitch it. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep stitching with my mood. I do have 3 whips that I have not touched since mid to end last December, and then one of them my failed New Year, New Start, that have been calling to me, so I might pick those up. I think I've narrowed down which Hands Across the Sea piece I'll be starting next. And I just started watching Kathryn Adrian's Stitching in Costumes most recent video last night, and she started La-Di-Da, what is that chart called? I can't remember what it's called, but I'll insert a picture here. It has a bunch of swans in it and a pretty tree and a beautiful large floral border. She just started that, and I have it in stash, so I may be influenced to start that one. Don't forget that if you're considering purchasing my new reproduction, Hannah Jude's Night, or one of my other 2 reproductions, they are 10% off on Etsy through Mother's Day, which is May 10th, 2026. Everyone who celebrates Mother's Day, I hope you have a happy one. And for anyone whose Mother's Day is a hard day, I hope that you're okay and that you find comfort and peace in whatever you do that day. For everybody, I hope that you're all safe. I hope that you're all healthy, that your stitching brings you joy, and that you have a wonderful end of April and wonderful May, an excellent spring. And I will see you at the end of May. Happy stitching, everyone.